Okay, so we are diving back into object-oriented programming today. We learned about classes. The last time had an intro to Python classes, and this class we are going to dive in a bit more on it says getters and setters. We're going to go into what those are in a minute, but we're going to follow this README fairly closely and kind of take a look at getters and setters. So we left off here with our little review and pre-work looking at these attributes that we have in this class, name and age. Um, we saw that we can go ahead before we made this private. We could go ahead and update these by just simply changing the value. But we've got this weird input here that somebody put in that I do not want the name to be updated
Mm.
to, but it said, nah, it's fine. We're going to update it anyways. We're going to look at getters and setters as a way to kind of help validate our data before it gets injected into this attribute. So first, in order to start looking at getters and setters, we're going to briefly touch on something called a decorator. So let's see. I'm going to comment out a lot of this stuff. Does anybody know what a decorator is? Have you been exposed to a decorator before?
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. What is a decorator in your own words?
it just runs a function before the it it has like functionality to a function before before it's run. So it like you said, it you could use it as data validation,
Yeah.
which I, which I've done. So it's like you can just put it on top and it'll do some kind of it'll do like its special function magic and help you out so you don't have to like write it again.
Mhm.
So it kind of does the what do you call it? Polymorphism, I guess. So you can just put that decorator on top and have it do a a necessary function like data validation before you run a function
Mhm.
that that enters data. So
Yeah, yeah. So that decorators are kind of hard to define, I guess, but it is using a function to kind of enhance or modify another function. And typically we see it set up in this way, where we have a decorator function kind of wrapped around. We have we call it the decorator name. We pass it a function. And then we have this wrapper function on the inside. And then within that is the function being called. Um, and with this decorator defined like this, we are able to attach it onto a different function by simply putting at my decorator, which is the name of our decorator. And it will take this function as the input here. So we have a very simple function right here that we've defined. It just says say hello. It's called say hello, and then it prints hello. The decorator, when we attach this onto here, this whole function gets passed in here. And now we have this wrapper. It's going to print something that is happening before the function is called. Then we're going to call the function, which is say hello. And then we're going to print something happening after it is called. Um, and then we just return this wrapper. So it's allowing us to do things outside and around or even with this function. So what would we expect to see, you think, if we called say hello with this decorator attached to it? What do we think we will see in our terminal when calling this function?
Hello sandwiched between those other two print statements.
Yes, yes, exactly. So as we saw, this function is going to be called within our decorator. So the decorator occurs first. And it's going to run this first, and then it's going to call our function, which should say hello, and then it's going to run this next. So let's take a look and see. We can see that is indeed how the order occurs with this decorator. You can definitely look more into decorators and how they work. I was going to show you all more in-depth decorators, passing in args and quargs, but I don't think we're going to do that because you'll use them, but not a prolific amount of times. Like it's not it's not something you'll have repeated throughout your code like millions of times. It's good to know. It's good to know how to use them. And there are some built-in decorators, which we're going to get into in a second, that are very helpful. But I'm not gonna, if we want on Saturday, I can go into more decorators and how to make some more beefy decorators for functions. But I just want you to understand that with a decorator, the decorator kind of wraps around the function you attach to it. And the decorator will run first, and then the function will run usually within that. Okay, so any questions on that before I get past that? Again, we call a decorator on a function by just at and then the name of the decorator. Okay, so we are going to use this decorator knowledge to come back up here, and we're going to use some built-in decorators with Python to help us access the data within these attributes and then update it safely with some data validation. So we're going to have, and they're called getters and setters, because getter, we're getting the data, and setters, we're setting or updating the data within that attribute. So let's create first a getter for the name attribute. So with every other method we're putting underneath our class, we're going to start with a define, and let's call this get name, because we're going to get this name, and we pass in self. We're not going to pass in anything else because we have access to every single attribute that's defined up here. We don't have to pass it into our function. We can simply access it by doing self dot whatever the attribute name is. So how can I just get the value of the name? What should I return?
You have to return the instantiation of it.
Right now, I just want the value of the name. I don't have, this is all within our class.
So just self.name?
Yes, correct. So we can access whatever this object's name is by self.name. This will go ahead and take this value and just return that value. Now, the built-in decorator that we are going to put on this with Python is called property. So this is, we could see a whole bunch of stuff that VS Code is shooting out here and telling us all about this, this decorator. But we can see it's a function used for getting an attribute value. So by putting this on here, we're basically altering this method, or I guess telling it that it's going to get the value of an attribute. Just roll with that. If you want to dig into how it does that in the back, of course, you can do your control click and look at the Python behind the scenes on how it does this, if you're more advanced, but that's probably a little overwhelming. Just if you're going to grab an attribute value and you want to get that value, just put at property above it, and define your function to get that and return that value. That's all you have to do. So we'll do the same thing for age. We're going to do property decorator, and we're going to get age. And here, just like above, we're just going to return self.age. So now both of these are what we call getters. This is allowing us to access those attributes values in a more safe and defined way than just trying to access it like this, user1.name. So now we are going to look at how to set these values or update them with new values. For this, we're also going to use a decorator, but first let's make our methods. So now we're going to call this set. So we had get up there, get name. Now we're going to make one called set name. And it's going to take in the name or the self, the object. But think about if we are trying to make a method that I can update the name, we're going to be passing in another value, right? We need to provide something to this function to go ahead and update that name with. So we are going to pass in a new name that we're going to update this value with. Okay, so we have set name, and we're going to pass in a parameter, which is a new name. And then we are going to do some validation here. So what was the problem I had here? Why don't we like this for a name? What's going on here?
It may not be standard. It'll probably screw up our data because or it could be an attack. It could be an ejection attack.
Yeah. So
And
what kind of validation do we think would be good to have for our names? Like, what do we want to see as a value passed in?
Letters only.
Yeah, I like that. Let's make it letters only. Sorry for the people that do have numbers or weird symbols in their names. We're gonna make ours easy and just do number or letters only. So how can I do that so I'm passing in a new name and I want to see if this is letters only.
Isn't there an is alpha method?
So let's say if that new name, I don't know if there's an is alpha. That might be JavaScript. What is it? So here's an example of something I don't know in Python. So I am just going to go Python is alpha and see what it gives me. You can look at the AI overviews. A lot of times it can be correct and show you how to do it. It says there is alpha. Did I have an uppercase?
Yeah,
Yeah, you had an
uppercase
uppercase A.
Okay. So that is how I find code snippets too. If you know in one language, you can Google real easily to find it in another. Just put the other language up. Okay, so let's do is alpha. That doesn't, okay, so we say if this is all alphabet, then what do we want to do?
set it.
Set it. So how did I set it down here? How can I set the value of that name?
Self.name equals name.
Is it going to equal name or what is it going to equal?
New name.
New name, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Because our attribute or our parameter that we're passing in here is called new name. So we are going to take that new name. We're going to check if it is all letters, then go ahead and set our classes, our instance of this class, that name value to this new name. Okay, so what happens? We gotta handle what happens if it's not alphabet, right? we don't want to have an if statement and not have the other side of it handling the other side. So what happens if it doesn't pass that validation? What should we do here?
Return.
Going to print error or just print something.
Yeah, I like that. Let's just print something. We could just return and just like exit out of it, but then the user has no idea what happened if you just exit out an app. So let's throw up like a print statement on the terminal.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Will tell us what happened here. So let's say name must be only letters. That's an awful name must be, my brain is not braining right now. I worked a full day. So think of a better thing to have here. But here is our method to update the name. It's a little more solid now. It looks at if it's all letters only and doesn't have that, and we'll update it only if that's the case. In order to officially set this as a setter and using these built-in decorators with Python, we're going to target the property that we want to update. So right here, we are saying our values, our property's value is, we do a get to get the value of this property, right? It's giving us the value of that attribute. So we are going to target this. Well, we're going to target the name. We're not going to target the attribute itself. We're going to target the instance that we get. That's confusing. Try not to dwell on it for too long. Just keep it in your mind that for setters, you're going to target the name of this getter. And then we're going to do a dot setter. So this is saying, hey, this getter here, where you're getting the value of this property, this attribute, we're going to go ahead and now set it with this one. So that is how you specify a setter for a specific attribute. And now let's do the same thing for our age. So we'll define a function first. This will be called get age, or sorry, set. We're on setters, set age. We pass in self every time without thinking. And again, we want to update the age. So we're going to be giving it another value. So we need to have a parameter here that can accept that value and work with it in the function. So let's have new age here being passed in. With this one, let's see. Do we want, what kind of validation would make sense for an age? If we want to update a person's age.
It's got to be greater than 0.
Yes, I like that. It's got to be greater than 0. Anything else we want to do?
It has to be only numbers.
Only numbers. Yep. Integer. Yes, Adam. Exactly. I like that. Oh, and I missed the message there about name must only include letters. Please try again. That's a good one. Sounds much better than mine. But yes, for our age, we want it to be over 0, right? They can't be 0 years old, and it needs to be an integer. So how can I do that with this? How can I make sure that this new age is over 0 and an integer?
Do a int and then put in the new age in parentheses.
So this would make it an integer, right? So you could do that too. You could try to force it to be an integer but that won't work if they're passing like the letter A, right?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's a good thought though. And we can help, I like that V, check for data type. That's exactly where I want to go, because we can, if it's a string of a number, we can definitely change that to an integer, but yeah, if they pass a letter in, we're out of luck. So let's check what data type this age is. How can I do that? Does anybody remember how to check data type in Python?
Type of.
I'm sorry, there was a couple talking at once. Type of? Okay. Okay. Type of. So we're going to do an if statement, right? Because we want to check if this is the case. So if I do what? Type of new age. Is that not the structure of this?
I think it's just type, isn't it?
Go ahead and get out our handy Google check data type Python. So I work in C# and .NET frameworks, so I don't know all the syntax of Python as well as some other instructors might. So there is nothing wrong with coming and Googling, how to check a data type in this. And then it will give you, so it's just type. Okay, so not type of, it's just type. So let's go ahead and do type. Okay, so if type of new age is what? Help me finish my statement here.
Int.
Okay, so if it's equal to int, can I just do one equal? Do I have to do, what's my Python structure here?
Double equal.
Then it looks like it doesn't like just int,
The colon.
colon. Okay, it does like just int. Okay, so we've got if it's an integer, or should be. We will definitely check in a little bit how if these work. But we also got to figure out if it's over 0 years old, right? Greater than 0. So how should I throw that into? Okay,
You
Michael.
do
Go ahead, Jose. You can chime in too.
I was just say, do you do the ampersands and
That
the two?
is JavaScript, right?
Oh, that's right. Gotcha.
So Python's so much easier and we can just and.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotta love the easy syntax. So we'll do an and. Sure, let's see if this works. And what? New age is greater than 0, right? Okay. So now theoretically, this should be saying if it's an integer and it is over than 0, then what are we gonna do?
Set. You're gonna set it.
Okay. And we did that by just targeting self.age, right? You can think of it as like my own age. So I want to update the age of this object, my own age. We're going to set that to equal this new age that's coming in. Okay, else, what are we going to do here? Another statement, right? We won't spend too much time on this. We're going to print.
Do you have to, you don't have to return after you print like an error. I mean, what will it do?
So this, you don't have to have a return statement, but this is what's called side effects. So this function or this method is doing something, but it's not returning a value. It's just updating things and printing things on the screen. So this won't hold a value when you return, because nothing's being returned.
I mean, I was just thinking return 0, or I didn't know if will it just automatically return back from that function when it's called? You
So
don't
for
have to call return on it.
like age, if you're trying to update the age.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, if somebody's, I was just wondering if it's going to return back to the caller when you get to the end of that method. So if they, uh, if they don't put in the right age, if they put in like 5 or Y,
Yeah,
it'd just automatically return the print statement.
correct. Yep. He'll
Okay.
run through this and it won't do this because it doesn't meet this criteria. So it'll jump down here and just print and then be done. The function just exits because it's done. It doesn't exit because it returns, it just ends. Um,
I think in that example, I was thinking of like a scenario where this is in a while loop and you're kind of like, while this isn't true, do that. So it just returns to the input field until the user like gets it right.
yeah, so you could definitely do that too. You could throw instead of just an if statement, you mean make a while this and have like a flag. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, just so like in the else statement, they don't just skip that the function ends, it just bounces back to the input field essentially.
Yeah. Probably for like a full app, you'd do something like that. But for now, we're just going to try to set it, and if it doesn't work, then you'll just have to call the function again with a new age. Yeah, it can definitely be handled a bit better for sure. But okay, so we've got our setter defined here, our setter method, but we need to make sure to add our fancy Python decorator here. And again, if we're doing a setter, we're going to target the name of the getter. So this is get age is our getter for this. And we're going to just make it now this one a setter. It's okay if you don't understand it, just follow the layout and structure of these. So our getters have app property as the decorators, and our setters have the name of the getter plus dot setter on it. So now we should be able to go ahead and use these. Let me pull this down. So we'll go ahead and create a user. I'm gonna get rid of all the rest of this stuff here. So we're gonna have a user created that is gonna be Bob and 30. Now, in order to see his name, I won't do user1.name. I'll do user1 dot get name, which it seems a little wordy right now, and it is, and we will fix that in a little bit. It definitely seems like this is not easier, but where this really shines is when we, let's print this too, actually. Sorry, we don't have to call it. So I did not realize that in this. I don't use getters and setters much, but it looks like with a getter, you do not have to call it like a regular function. You don't have to have the parentheses afterwards saying that it is a function because it basically turns this is used for getting an attribute value. So this decorator goes ahead and manipulates it for you. So you don't have to call it like a function. So it's still wordy though, but where this really shines is when we try to update the name, right? Now, if I were to do like user1 set name and then pass in, oh, you don't pass in
Mhm.
equals a value. So it's again essentially like just updating these attributes directly. But we made them functions, but we're not using them like functions. We can
So
pass. Oh, go
that's
ahead.
finally going to make them inaccessible.
Sorry, what?
That's going to finally block those attributes from being accessible.
Um, you may still be able to set them directly. I don't know. I actually don't. We'll test that. We'll see if we can set it directly. Let's do that first. But I have a feeling these getters and setters that are built into Python help kind of lock that down. So that we can't just access them directly. That's just an assumption. I don't know. We are going to see together. Because the best thing we can do when we're unsure is just do it and print it on our screen and see what happens. So let's do name equals Mary, right? It's just name. Yeah, name. Okay. Let's try that first. And then we will use one. Okay. So it did update it, actually. It still works to update it. However, the user won't know that. Typically, the user will see what you let the user see. So you will let the user see these getters and setters, not the actual attribute name. If that makes sense. But yeah, it looks like it doesn't do anything to actually lock it down. You'd still be able to update it.
It's kind of irritating.
Yeah, yeah. That's why security is a big thing, and that's why companies don't want you throwing their code, their proprietary code into AI, because if people can see, behind the scenes, it can be quite easy to do some things. So let's now use our setter instead. So before we passed in a whole bunch of random things, right? We passed in like value and like whatever. We tried to set a name to some weird random thing that didn't have just letters. Now, with my setter validation here, it should prevent this from happening. Okay. I wonder if I need to print this. Print. Yeah, we'll see first. Again, I don't use. Okay, so it worked. It returned the print statement we had signified, right, for our name. So it tried to update the value of that attribute with this that we passed in. However, it went through and saw that there was numbers and an underscore and whatever. And we can see it says name must only be letters here. So now we have it locked down where the user can't just throw in whatever they want. Now they have to actually pass in a name. Is this going to show me anything on the screen when I run this?
No,
Why is this not going to show me something but the other one did?
because you're directly changing the attribute.
Yep, exactly. So in our method, we have here our setter. It only prints something on the screen when it fails. But if it succeeds, it just updates that attribute's value. So let's go ahead and try to update it and then print user one. Oh, let's not print dot name. Let's print with our getter, which is get name. Okay, so let's run this and we can see, yeah, we had Bob first when we instantiated this object or this class, and then we updated to Mary, which passed validation. And now we used our getter here to go ahead and print out the value on our screen. Same thing with age. We can do user one set age equals, again, let's try 0 and see what happens. We should hopefully hit our validation in our setter and get our little age must be a positive integer. Sure enough, we did. Awesome. So now if we set it to 35, then we will do print our user one, get age. Did I not? There we go. Okay, so you can see it updated there. Awesome. So any questions so far on these getters and setters? I don't know very in-depth behind the scenes about these, but can we see how they are structured? And then how you would have your getters with property, your setters with the getter's name and setter afterwards. And then how we decided what we wanted our outcome to be based on our validation statements here. Okay, so I hate how they had us go through all that. And then in the README, they're going to show you, now that we have these, let's follow Python convention. I don't know why we didn't learn that to begin with. So your getters, you can drop the get and just have the name of the attribute. Okay. And then your setters in turn will be much easier. It'll just be name. So then when you're calling them and updating them, it will look kind of like how you normally would access an attribute with a class. Okay, so we did all that, but really you would take off these gets. It just helps you kind of organize while setting up, but then afterwards you can take off your get and set. And just have everything without those prefixes on there. Interestingly, you will not have any clashing with the method names. You would expect you would, right? Because we have two methods named age in here. But you won't, because it understands that when you pass in a value or make it equal a value, it will understand it's the setter. So now instead of doing, let's see, and we'll take out the name. So here we did set age, but instead we just do age. Hey, target that age attribute and set it to that. And then go ahead and just access that age. So our getters and setters will take care of everything behind the scenes, but we could still assign it and call it like we're used to with a regular class attribute. Did that really confuse y'all, or are we still on the same page? If it helps to have get in there, you can absolutely keep your gets, your get name, and then your set name. And definitely if you're setting it up for the first time and you're unsure, have those in there just to keep your stuff organized and you know which one you're working on, a getter or a setter. Then afterwards, you can go out and delete everything and just access it by the name of the attribute.
So I do have a question, and maybe I should have asked this like from the beginning. I'm still trying to get I'm following like the syntax, like okay, whenever you state not you're not setting something in, but when you're going down the road and you're putting in the attribute for a setter. Where I'm trying to understand is the at property. I'm following you through the curriculum, but how can you explain again like the at symbol and the property again? Like, is that just the name we're setting for that setter or that getter?
Basically, yes. So this is a decorator method that is
Gotcha.
built into Python. So Python has these built in. So we are decorating our functions with something that Python has developed. And yes, it is identifying these functions then as getters and then these ones as setters based on that built-in method.
Okay. Okay. And when we have the getters, we're pulling information from self, which is the name
Exactly.
for okay. But I guess my next question would be, let's say for instance the first getter, what would be the purpose of using that if I can already just create a function without the without the getter. What would want me, or what would be the catalyst for me to create a setter other than just create? Because if I create the function, it would do the same thing for me, right? But I guess what would be the reason for doing a setter rather than just the function itself?
So the getters, yeah, we could just easily access. The setters, though, it is easier to have that value. How do I want to say this? I asked the same thing earlier when I was looking into this. It's really for the data validation aspect.
Gotcha.
I would have to look into the like inner workings behind the scenes on why this is more favorable. Let's see,
Okay.
I had a note here. Hang on, I might have a note. Because I thought the same thing. You can definitely make a method that updates the value. Like you can
Okay.
target the self.name. You could just have like, you can absolutely write an update name that takes in a new name, you know, and then
Okay.
in this you can do self.name equals new name. And you can do your validation in between. But this is, there has to be some reason that it works better for data validation than just this. It might be because it is so much easier to just do user1.age equals that versus calling like an update age, pass in the value 35. It makes it a little bit easier to just go ahead and try to update that attribute versus calling a function to update it.
Gotcha.
So these ones, that's, yeah, I talked myself into why this is definitely cooler. You don't have to call these like normal functions. We saw that down here. We don't, they are definitely methods and functions, but we don't have to call it. We just assign it values and just try to access the value.
Okay.
Okay. Hopefully that made sense and made it a little bit clearer. Cool.
It does. Yeah.
That's a great question, though. Great question. Any other questions on getters and setters? If it's
I do have one.
Mhm.
And instead put in self name equal new name, we just return the name itself instead of writing the whole thing on.
Up here, Did-
No,
wait,
on the setter name dot setter. If
in
the
the name
name is
setter.
yes, instead put in self name, just return the new name instead of having the whole code.
So you say instead of assigning it, just returning the new name?
Yes, just return the new name.
Okay.
Just to get less code into it. I just want to know if it works.
So all this will do is just it if we return this, it would just hold the value of the new name, but it's not updating anything. It's literally just spitting that new name back out at us. But what our goal is we want to update the attribute in this class.
Okay.
So this, yeah, if we wanted, we could return the name, but then we'd still have to assign it somewhere, assign that value somewhere. Because right now it's just taking in a new name and then spitting it right back out, but not actually assigning it to anything. Whereas if we do this, we're saying, hey, take my instance's name and go ahead and make it equal this new name we put in here. If that makes sense. Okay, any other questions on getters and setters? If it's confusing, don't worry, just follow this structure and just change out, the variable names to whatever attribute you're focusing on. And of course, updating the validations checks. But it's always going to be for getters, it's always going to be at property, and then basically just the name of the attribute and then returning the attribute's value. Setters at name or whatever that attribute or the getter's name is dot setter, and then the method, and then update it if it meets a validation check. Otherwise, do something else. Okay, if there's no questions, I'm about to stop recording here and then we will take a break. I'll introduce our challenge. Let me stop recording.